What is up, Josh? How are you doing today?
Great. And thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
This is so exciting. Well, I'm excited to talk basketball, Australia, Indiana, and the jerseys that you have in the back. I'm going to ask you about those. But first, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all the guests on the What's Up podcast. What are you all about right now? It could be a song, a food, a life hack. What are you all about right now?
I'm all about guitar. I am I'm in it. I mean, I come back from basketball, I finish my schoolwork and I'm on the guitar. I want to learn.
Wow, like school, basketball, and then playing guitar.
Yep,
Oh,
literally.
oh, okay. You were doing it
Yeah.
right now. Okay. Okay. Well, you pulled it out. You got to play something for us on the podcast. What do you
Oh
got?
wow. Um yeah,
Oh my
nothing
goodness.
nothing crazy, but just
Can you tilt the
oh no,
camera down?
it is not tuned up. I
Oh,
cannot.
I'll give you like 10 seconds if you want to tune it up.
It takes a bit longer for me.
Okay, well, no worries. No worries. We don't have to play. I actually play guitar as well. I'm not
We can
very
cut that
good,
out if
and
you
I
want.
no, that's staying in. That's staying in. To anyone who's not watching this on video, Josh just pulled out his guitar and was about to play for us, but it does take time to tune. I will say
Yeah.
that is one thing that I remember from playing guitar. But okay, so you've been spending time playing guitar. What's your go-to song that you know right now?
I like what a beautiful name it is. I can do that. I
Mm.
can do goodness of God, and then I'll just learn little riffs here and there. But seriously, I'm not the best, but it's a hobby I can do.
That's amazing. Those are some powerful worship songs.
Oh yeah, love
Oh,
them,
those
love
were
them.
not the songs that I was expecting like, wagon wheel, three chords,
Yeah,
something.
there you go. I can do that.
Yeah, okay, well, that's like the only one that I can do. So, well, that's so awesome. I love learning about you, and maybe at some point down the line we'll get to hear you play guitar on a different recording. So,
We'll see.
practice up. That's good. Well, Josh, you are originally from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Did I pronounce that right?
There you go. You might be the first American to say that correctly.
What? No, that's a huge compliment. Thank you. So, what's something that people don't know about Australia? When they think Australia, what's something that you think that they should know that they don't probably already know?
Uh, so I think when people think of Australia, you guys think of animals, and like that could be true, but I'm serious when I say this. The animals should not be a reason to not go to Australia. 100% like you can find some stuff there, but you got to go looking for it. So kind of like here, you're not just gonna see a deer show up in your apartment. You- You're not gonna see a kangaroo show up in your house. It's not like that. So same with spiders and snakes. Like unless you're looking for it, you'll get left alone.
Yeah, well, that's funny because I wouldn't have thought to be like scared of animals in Australia. I would be like, oh, like I don't know, koala, like so
Yeah,
cute, kind of thing. But that's good to know that don't be surprised by it, don't be scared of it. You're right. I don't see many deer walk in my house at all, so that's
there you go.
good. Well, if I do get to go to Australia one day, and I do get to go to your specific part, what should I do? Like, give me. I have one day. What should my day be?
Oh wow. I would 100% say you got to go down to the CBD, so the city district, and go walk along the river, go see some of the like we have some really good sort of interactive museums. I would always enjoy looking at. And then if you drive either an hour and a half south or an hour and a half north, you'll find some really great beaches.
Do you surf?
No, I don't surf. I'm a little tall for that.
How
But
tall how tall are you exactly?
I'm 6'10".
Okay. That's really tall.
So, I mean, I'm sure you could find some tall guys that can surf, but look, I haven't done it in years. I mean,
Yeah, that's funny. Well, okay, well now I know the museums and I got to go to the beach.
yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. I had
And then
two of my
try out the food 100%. Try out
Okay,
some of the food.
what should I get?
Uh, well, oh wow, I haven't been back home in a while. You should, it's hard to say. You should try some of our Asian food. You don't really think of Australia and think food because we don't really have Australian food. It's just like different, we have American food, we have Asian food, we have Italian food, we have a lot of different spin-offs kind of, and you just got to try it in our way.
That's good. Okay, well, I'm gonna come try the Asian food in Australia
There you
someday.
go.
Two of my best friends actually spent a ton of months in Australia junior year of college, Elle and Kira, and they absolutely loved it. I mean, we were asking them questions about it throughout the entirety of senior year and just absolutely loved their photos from it. And they had a ton of fun. So it's definitely on my bucket list. And thank you for sharing the tips. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
no,
That's
that's
so good.
awesome.
Well, Josh, you talked a little, you said, I haven't been home in a while. And so I just want to know, when was the last time that you've been home?
So I went home this May, so in summer, but it was for 3 weeks. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, doing being a college basketball player. We're here all year round. But yeah, I moved away from home when I was 16 to go train at like a prep school type of thing. And since then, I've just been sort of going back and forth, back and forth. So it's been a while since I've actually lived properly in Brisbane.
It's crazy. You're right. Basketball is like year round, and really a lot of college athletics is like that. And you have a basketball is tough. I was saying this to someone the other day. You're missing Thanksgiving. You're missing Christmas. Sometimes you're missing like other holidays and all the things. And
Yeah.
that's something that I was thankful for in college, getting to be able to go to football games because we played in the spring, or I could be home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so it's hard. It's when playing a winter sport is really hard. But that's kind of what I want to lead into is how did you get from Australia to Evansville, Indiana? Like I would never pair those two places together.
Yeah, look, I might be the only Australian to ever step foot in Evansville, Indiana, but
Do you have? We should find a stat on that. That'd be a pretty cool thing.
I'm kidding. I've met one, and they worked at a bank.
Okay.
They'd been here for like 20 years. That's the only other Australian I've met here. But so as I said, I moved away from home when I was 16 to go play for a prep school. It's not a prep school, but just, for the Americans listening, that's probably the easiest way to describe it. A prep school. And basically just the best players in Australia. We all got together and we train against each other. We train in the NBA Global Academy and the Basketball Australia's Centre of Excellence at the Australian Institutes of Sport in Canberra. And yeah, look, it's just a great program, and with that comes a lot of exposure. So I got to travel quite a bit, and with that, all the college coaches they're watching. So yeah, look, I got a phone call, and on the phone was my coach, Craig Snow here, and yeah, look, why Evansville? It really just came down to the relationship I had with the coaches. So being so far away, I didn't actually, and my recruiting was quite late. I didn't actually get to come on an official visit to the States. So
No,
a lot of
not
my
even
unpaid.
to like the US at all.
I came to the US, but nowhere near Indiana,
Wow.
and not for visits either. Like I came to, play some games with my team.
Which you
But we
probably
went to
didn't have time to go like explore. You're probably just
yeah,
like in the
we
gym.
went to Utah and New York. So
Two very different places.
yeah, a bit different. But anyway, it really just came down to the relationship I had with the coaches over the phone. And look, I couldn't have even told you where Indiana was on a map by the time I actually committed. So it was really just, look, I'm in for this basketball, and whatever comes next, God's got me.
Wow. That is a wild story. I can't even fathom being from a country as far away as Australia and almost like blindly committing really to a school. And what's funny is it's similar but very different in that I grew up in Seattle, Washington, moved to Nashville. So when I was in Nashville, I was about to move to Indiana. And I had never been to Indiana, never seen Indiana. And I was moving to Indianapolis, so more of the city in Indiana. And I ended up living there for 3 years. But it is a really scary feeling when you are moving and you say yes to going. I don't really have, it wasn't my choice, it was my parents' choice. But when you say yes to moving to a place that you've never seen, never been, and you're just like blindly hands up, here I go. It's really scary. So I can't imagine what that was like for you. And kind of just going back, you said you committed really because of the relationships that you had with the coaches. Like, what inside of you, and you were just like, okay, God, here we go. Like, what inside of you told you, I'm gonna commit and go to Evansville, Indiana?
Yeah, look, I mean, exactly that. A lot of prayer went into it, and eventually you just get a sense of peace about one place, and that's what it really came down to. It really just came down to, look, I like what these guys, aside from maybe the spiritual aspect, aside from that, like I like what these guys have to say. Like, of course, college coaches are going to sell the dream, so these guys are really talking it up. It's a nice place, and I really like what they have to offer on the basketball court. And then at the same time, I was getting that sense of peace that was just really calming to me. And we're told to trust God with all our heart, soul, and mind. So really, it just came down to that.
Mhm. And when you made that decision, and even in your first year there, did you have like feelings of homesickness just because of the distance? And how many times was family able to visit you? Were you able to go back at all in that first year? What was that like?
Yeah. So my freshman year, great experience. I mean, some people come over and they just say like it was the worst thing they've ever done, but look, I think it's the best thing I've ever done. I have absolutely no regrets, and look, it's been great. So as I said, I moved away from home a couple of years before, and that honestly helped me a lot. Apart from I'm an only child, well, my mum's only child. I've got some step siblings and half siblings, but I'm my mum's only child, so I think the separation from her was a bit harder than for me. But yeah, as I said, I moved away from home early, and coming over here, it just made it not that big of a jump. Like, sure, I'm moving. I say it so lightly, but sure, I'm moving, across the ocean, but it's no longer a fact of moving away from home. It's just moving into a different country that's I'm having to tackle now, not moving away from home and a new country. So I think that breakup really helped me, and I guess I didn't get homesickness too badly. Like, sure, I still got it as anyone does, but I got a bit of Australia sickness.
Mhm. What did you miss the most about Australia?
Initially, it was like knowing where to go for things. Like an example, my laptop broke, and I had no clue what type of store to go to, and eventually someone told me Best Buy or wherever, but it was just not getting to know the certain places and stores I could go to for certain things, and definitely missing like those different foods we had back home. Like, yeah,
Yeah, those are all like really like things that happen daily that you don't probably didn't even think about that you're gonna struggle with until you got there, right? Like
exactly.
those are probably things you got there. You're like, okay, like where can I get some like lotion? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know why I
no,
said lotion, but like seriously, like I was just in Seattle, Washington over the summer, and like their version of CVS is called Bartell Drugs. It's just like different,
yeah,
right? Like, and they
and
have
like
CVS.
I had to get a phone. I had to get a phone plan. Like, the phone providers aren't the same, so
Yeah.
just trying to see what to do for those type of things was what brands to trust. It's
Yeah, who can I
just as
trust?
anyone
That's
does moving away. It's a whole new world, really, once you step across. So it was part of that, and you mentioned like my family being able to come and visit. So they actually did manage to get over here for my birthday, which is 8th of January, so just after Christmas. And they might be number two and three Australian to come to Evansville. So
that's
they
hilarious.
they brightened my world, and yeah, it was awesome to get to meet up back with them right in the heart of the season. And yeah, they actually got to be here for my career high too. So that was awesome.
Wow. How cool is that, right?
Yeah,
That's such a God thing to give you that gift on that day when they're all there. How
yeah.
cool. That's so awesome. What was the first thing what did you take them to go see in Evansville? Was there anything that you're like, okay, we're gonna go do this while you guys are here? You can't believe this is in Indiana.
So I've got a girlfriend, so it was meeting my girlfriend first.
Okay,
Um,
that's number
they
one, obviously.
they actually got to see my girlfriend before they saw me because she picked them up from the airport. I was playing a game. But
That's
so I'm
hilarious.
sure that was a good introduction. Um, What did I think we went to BJ's?
What's
So,
BJ's? Do I not know?
oh,
I don't know what BJ's is.
right, I guess that's just a Midwest thing.
No, I should know. I did live there for 3 years. Is it
This is
like
new.
a
I didn't know it was a whole America thing. Wasn't a whole America thing. Just a food place. You can get pizza, burgers, like, but then they've got bazookies, and yeah, I'm all for that.
good? Okay,
Big,
well, I'm
big
gonna
like
have to try it.
cookie, like a this size, and it's like a cookie cake kind of.
Oh, you know what? I do know what you're talking about now. Now it's coming
Okay,
to me. That's
okay.
good. Well, I love hearing that, and it's so special when your family's able to come visit you, regardless of how far away they are. I think that's really cool, and I'm happy to hear that. But just talking more about basketball, right? You said that they were, you said the academy that you went to. I think you said the academy, what did you call your school?
Yeah, Global Academy.
Yes. What was that? What was that experience like?
Yeah, look, great. Like it is. It's tough, and as I mentioned, it's a bunch of the sort of best Australians coming together, but then there's also guys from other countries that came. Like we had, guys from Africa, there's a guy from Qatar, Great Britain, New Zealand, like guys from all over, Japan, um, China, guys from all over just coming together to train together and make each other better. So everything I went through, I got to see it firsthand as one of the guys sort of introducing those, guys from China, guys from Japan into my country. So, I was sort of accustomed to that, like knowing what I was going to experience. So I think that also helped me coming over here, actually. But on the basketball side, yeah, really tough program. But, I would sign those papers every day. Every day I get the chance, I would sign those papers because I wouldn't be the person I am today without it.
Wow. That's a really heavy statement to make. And so I guess I would just you said how tough it is and when you're put in those, competitive situations, there can be a lot of like high and low emotions, right? So I guess like how did you find confidence in those stressful moments because right this academy is preparing you to have other basketball opportunities, right? And like your college career and your career, your pro career is all on the line, right? In these kind of in these small moments, right? And not that, nothing can happen if it doesn't go well, but a lot stems from it, right? So
Yeah.
how did you find confidence in that environment when you're surrounded by players from all over the world, not just like your own community?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, like I took a real hit. I really struggled for, a few months there while I was at that place and, just not really knowing, where to go, what I'm doing, because I was one of the smaller guys, in terms of weight and strength. I was one of the smaller guys, and I was having to figure out my way. So honestly, I really took a hit. And then, I sort of started, it wasn't actually until I left the academy that, I sort of started really getting deeper into my faith and because, I was getting ready to make the big move across the pond. So I was getting ready to make the big move, and I was like, "Look, I'm going to be on my own, so I really got to figure something out." And that's when Jesus came knocking, and I just decided to full send with that. And look, since then, my freshman year in college, all of those trials, those hardships that I faced while I was at the academy, have really just assisted to let me have the best freshman year possible. Because I don't think, as I said, I don't think I would be the person I am without that experience. I think, it's hard to know the good times if you don't know the bad times. So,
Super
yeah,
true. It hurts,
yeah.
but it's true.
And then talking about confidence, just the mindset I have now and that I got to learn throughout last year is just that as any athlete is, we're more than basketball players. We're more than the student athlete. We're more than a baseball player. Like, it's just knowing that you're more than what you are doing on that field. There can be 3,000, 5,000 people screaming your name because you just got dunked on or because you dunked on someone, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter. Like, as cool as that stuff is, it doesn't matter. And I think finding confidence in the fact that there's more behind sports and athletics, like, that really hit home for me and just let me know that I am a person.
Mhm. get dunked on. I like he said that you get dunked on or you dunk on someone. I love how you said that, and it is super true. Like there's so much more to your identity, and you said Jesus came knocking, and so I just want to unpack that a little bit. Like when did you have that like realization? Like okay, I'm not just a basketball player because that consumed your life, right? Like I can imagine you're at this academy, you're trying to go play college basketball. You probably want to play professional basketball, and you already have in certain ways, in world championships and all the things. But how did you put that into practice? Like, we can say, oh, you're not just a basketball player, but like, this is your life. You're doing this every day. You're in the gym every day. And if you're not in the gym, you're probably watching basketball on film,
Yeah.
right? So like how do you put that into practice and actually truly walk that out and believe it?
Yeah, so uh where I am now, it's just I feel so blessed because I'm able to see both perspectives. Like I've just had this killer year as a freshman and I'm so thankful for that. But then I've also experienced the other side of it where I've been the 12th man. I've been the guy that doesn't play. I've been the guy that, is dogging it out in practice every day and, seemingly not having any reward. So I've been on both sides of it and, I mentioned Jesus came knocking. I've always been a Christian, but I would sort of go away. Like I moved away from home at 16. I would sort of go away, hang out with my friends. Wouldn't get up to anything wrong, but just wouldn't. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't trying to better my relationship with the Lord. So, I was very lukewarm. And uh, I would come home in the school breaks, and then I'd sort of fill up my cup again, and then I'd eventually, as the semester goes on, just sort of lose that. So it really wasn't until Jesus came knocking, and I was on. I was getting ready to jump across the pond, and I had a few months to just really hone in and get to my core. So I really nestled down and got ready to move. So when I did move, the first thing I did, actually, I think I moved in on a Saturday or something, and then the first thing I did was go on Google Maps and find churches near me. So
Wow.
and,
Like
and
literally
seriously,
churches near me.
yeah. So that was the best thing I did, and I ended up walking a few miles down the road, and oh, look at me using miles. Wow, a few miles down the road,
Yeah. Welcome to the States.
couple kilometers down the road, and just found a church. And then what happened from there was just insane. Like God really had a plan. The people at the church, they found like they'd just done this camp with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA, and then they got me in touch with the head of the leaders of that group, and then they sort of took me on, brought me into a home group, just started mentoring me, got me into their church, and then from there, we've been able to start up FCA here now on school because we didn't have one. We've been able to start that up, and yeah, I forgot where I was going with that
No,
completely,
that
honest,
is
but
amazing. Like literally, you are a catalyst for FCA at your school. Like, come on.
yeah,
And how cool is that church that you Google Maps churches near me. Like, I laugh because it sounds so crazy, like worldly,
yeah,
right? Like, when was the last time that I just like Googled churches near me? I don't know. But because you were in a place of like just full on dependence on like God, you're like new city, new friends, new school, new
yeah,
team. Like you're like, okay, God, I know that I'm about to go into battle. So I know deep down that I have to prioritize you. So I'm just going to Google search churches near me. And he's like, okay, Josh, like I see you putting me first. Here, I'm going to plant the perfect people at that church for you. Like that is just so
100%,
cool.
100%.
Oh my goodness. And what inside, I mean, you said Jesus came knocking, but like what encouragement or advice would you give someone who's like, "Hey, cuz I experienced this my for myself in college. There were years when I was about to go to school and I knew I was like regardless of what season it was, I was like, I'm about to go to school and there are going to be a lot of things around me and I just need to prepare myself. Like I want to be having Jesus, in my ears before I get there so that like when I'm there, I'm ready. And so I understand that feeling of like, I got to prepare myself, right? I got to get my resources in now so that I don't have to scramble and find them when I'm in the midst of like college and it's school, sports, social, all the things, right? So like what advice would you give someone who might be going into that next like kind of battle testing season and they might need to start plugging in now.
Yeah, look, I think just knowing that there's going to be a change in your life and knowing that you can't do it by yourself. Well, you can do it by yourself, but it probably won't go well because I did that. I went to the academy. I didn't prepare. I didn't take Jesus with me, to be honest. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a great time there, but it could have just been so much of a different experience. Um, but yeah, you hear that we hear that voice knocking every day, whether that's a conviction on something, like I don't know if you have a problem cussing, like you feel that in your heart. If you feel like you're not reading enough, you feel that in your heart. And or you feel like there's something more to life, there's a God-sized hole that needs to be filled. Like we can't fill that hole with sport, academics, our phones, social media. That hole is never filled by anything other than God. So, just know that there's a change coming in your life. If that's what you're going through, then there needs to be a God that fills that God-sized hole.
And you recently got to share some of that at a camp with a bunch of kids. Was that related to the FCA that you met in Indiana?
Um, so no, it wasn't actually. And look, it's just another story of God really just paving the way with people. Like, uh, I think one of my coaches was meant to, it was his old high school, he was meant to do the talk, but he had to travel, do some scouting, whatever. And then he just sort of came to me and said, would you like to do this? And, I think with that trust people have, like, I like to, I've really been trying to make it known that I'm a Christian and have people know that about me. So, you know, that with that comes opportunity and responsibility. So the opportunity to go talk to those kids, it was about 200, 300 kids, third through 12th grade, really. And I was just talking about confidence. And so it wasn't really to do with FCA, but it was just another example of God really blessing in blindness.
And it's really intimidating, right? Like getting up and talking in front of people regardless. Like sometimes even I've done one-on-one interviews and I'm like, "Oh, I'm kind of nervous." And like there's nobody here watching, you know? Like that must have been intimidating for you. Was that the first time that you had spoken in front of a group? Like how many kids do you think were there?
Yeah, it was about 200, 300 kids, and that was my first time ever sharing my testimony to people other than my family. And the funny thing is that I was talking about confidence, so I really had no right to be nervous or anything. So that was sort of what got me through it, honestly. I'm like, come on. Jesus already talked about the hypocrites in the Bible. Don't make me one of those.
That's a good way to think about it. I never thought of that. You're right. And that is an interesting thing. Like you're up there talking about confidence and, where
Yeah.
your strength comes from and you're probably like, shoot, I'm getting kind of nervous. My throat's getting a little dry. That's awesome. Well, and sometimes I feel like when you go speak to people or you're pouring into other people, it's almost helpful to you in a sense as well. Like there have even been times like when I've coached younger lacrosse girls and I'm coaching them on their shot form or how they cradle and it's actually benefited me and like how I do
Exactly.
my sport. How did you see your faith grow or how did you see what did you learn from that experience?
Really just felt like I was on fire. Like I want, that's what I want to do. I want to spread this message of that there's something beyond sports, and I don't think there's a better. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's good when a college athlete like myself that can say that is saying that because it means something different coming from someone who's actually living it. And I experienced that through my whole childhood. I said I grew up a Christian, but yeah, just when I was able to listen to messages from the people that were actually living it, it just hits so much differently. So when a college athlete can get up in front of you and tell you that there's more to basketball, more to life than basketball, or more to life than football, it I think it really sends a positive message to those kids, and that's what I'm all about. I just want to spread that message, and yeah, exactly right. you got to preach. You got to preach what you teach. You know, or
Hmm.
walk
That's
like you
what you're
talk.
all
Like,
about. You're not just all about guitar. You're all about preaching what you teach, teaching what you
there you go.
preach. That's so good.
Whichever, yeah.
Yes, I
But
love
yeah,
that. Well,
because
you
you know
talked
exactly.
about,
You
no, what'd you
can't
say?
you can't say something and then not live it through. That's not how it works.
That's so, and that's great that you even experience that off the basketball court, right? Like there's moments when that's what you're saying to your teammates, and you're like, "Hey, we got to do X, Y, and Z," and then you got to go do it yourself. Like we got to hustle, and then you're, slowly jogging down the court. It's like, no, I got to hustle because I just told my teammates to do that. And in the same way,
Exactly.
when you're up there talking to all those kids, hey, you need to have confidence in the Lord, and fear does not come from the Lord. Now, I can't be scared when I'm up here talking, right? Like you're so right in that. And something that you said earlier that I want to go back to, you said I want people to know that I'm a Christian. And that's a really cool thing to say because you're just flat out being like, "Yep, I am not ashamed of the gospel. This is who I am. This is who he is. This is who you should be following." And that's I wouldn't say that's a really easy thing, right? Like the world is basically trying to pull us away from Jesus, right? Just with all the things. And so I would just ask you like how are you, number one, how are you leading in the locker room and showing your teammates, "Hey, this is who Jesus is and I want to be a leader in this way." And then how are you doing that outside of the locker room, with the pressure of being having to be bold about your faith?
Yeah. So uh, it's difficult, and a lot of people will talk about it, but really it just comes down to being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, I was that person that was just not ashamed but shy. I was shy of, telling people about what I believed because for whatever reason it's hard to do. And so yeah, in the locker room, for example, just trying to keep conversations positive. It doesn't always has to be, Jesus this, Jesus that, but just, maybe moving the conversation a certain way or outside of the locker room, like just bringing the Lord into certain conversations I'm having, in the dining hall, sitting around campus. Uh, if I'm called on by a teacher, like by a professor, just for an example, I'm not shy about that stuff anymore, and I'm thankful for that. And that was one of my big prayers. So, and then another one, I mentioned the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, that we've got here on campus. Like, it's so cool that, like, I actually get to be the president of that, and that
Whoa,
doesn't mean,
that's
thank you,
awesome.
that doesn't mean that I'm just out here, taking up all the speaking time or leading from the front. Like a lot of the stuff I try to do with that is just lead from the back and just make sure everything's going well. Or yeah, but whether it's putting something on Instagram, wearing some, wearing something positive like some
Yeah.
clothes.
Wait, hold your shirt up again. My sister had that same shirt on today.
Is that right?
Yes, or last night. Last night she had the same shirt on. Well, she had a hoodie version of it.
Okay.
I love it. And
Yeah,
can you
just
explain can you explain what that is?
uh yeah, look, I don't want to be the one that speaks on it entirely because one of my teammates' moms actually gave it to me. But hey, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
God,
God's
goals,
love.
grind, and growth.
There you go.
Love it.
G4.
G4. I love it. Well, it's cool that you have teammates who are, pouring into you in that way as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think it can be really rewarding if you have teammates who are also pursuing the Lord. Man, that makes your college athletic experience so much better and
Yeah.
so
And
much
look,
more
one thing I
fruitful.
will say, one thing I will say too, like, you can't be doing that stuff, just putting stuff on Instagram, just wearing the clothes, like just talking about it all the time. It's the time that comes behind the scenes with the Lord. It's the time that comes when it matters, That the other stuff is fruit we get to bear as as a reward of that. So
Hmm.
look, I'm really thankful, and it's more than just putting stuff on your Instagram, even though that's what I try and do, because that's what I think that's something I can do that's positive.
I love that's like a home run what you just said there, and I don't remember verbatim how you said it, but like basically what you're saying is like what you do when no one's watching is who you're going to be when everyone's watching, basically, right? And in those
Yeah,
moments of adversity, like that's what's going to come out, right? When you're on the court and like games on the line and emotions are hot and you might be mad at someone and the refs might have made a bad call, like who are you in those moments? Like what
absolutely.
what have you poured into yourself and what's going to come out? Is it going to come like the confidence of God that's going to come out, or is it like an impatient um soul, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I love how you said that because it is so important.
No, and seriously, I'm like by no means the best at that. That I get upset on the court, and I was just thinking about it today. I was walking into practice. Like, basketball brings out the worst in me, and funny enough, that's when the most people are actually watching me. I mean, we're blessed as a team to get the fans we do. We get about 3,000, 5,000 at a game. Like, there's a lot of people watching, and then they're watching the thing that brings the worst out in me. So I've really got to be in check.
hmm But I think it can also bring out the best in you, right? Because God gave you all those talents and God gave you this opportunity for a reason, right? And
Absolutely.
it's hard. You're saying like, yes, it brings out the worst in you because that's like the intensity of the environment. But
Yes.
that's why we play sports. Like that's why it's so cool to play a sport because you are being challenged in ways that um, are preparing you for life outside of sports and in preparing you for how are you going to handle adversity? How are you going to be mentally tough, right? When you hit those like really intense moments of even if all things are going well, there's a lot of eyes on you. And so I would just ask you with the mention of the crowd size at Evansville, like how do you handle those pressure situations? How are you handling like, oh, all eyes are on our team, all eyes are on me in this moment. Like how are you calming yourself down just for some athletes who might struggle with that?
Um, just knowing that your sport isn't any more than it is. I talked about like there's a life beyond basketball, there's a life beyond your sport. So knowing that, but then at the same time, knowing that your sport is still the same sport that you've played since you were a kid, since you've played since you were a young teen. Like, I'm sitting at the free throw line. There's people screaming at me, but really, what's the difference between that and me just sitting in the gym by myself shooting a free throw? It isn't. The ball's the same size, the rim's the same height. It's still just as far away. So, and it's a skill, just being able to block out that noise and really narrow in. Because if you're good at something, you have no right to let the outside influence that.
That's good. I'm gonna write that one down. There's a lot of quotes that I get from getting the opportunity to be a podcast host here, and that was one of the ones that I absolutely loved. And you know what's cool about what you just said is like having to block out the noise. That practice of blocking out the noise in your sport is directly related to practicing blocking out the noise in life, right? Like that's mental reps, that's mental strength that you're building up to do that, and that's going to take you so far in life. And I'm saying this because I realized it in my own life. Like the moment that I stopped working out really hard and like pushing myself physically is I noticed like a little dip in like my mental toughness. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like I just come off my season. I took a little break and it's very healthy to take breaks. Like I'm not saying people should be like going 110 all the time, but I did notice that when I took a little dip in like how hard I was pushing myself and just staying in this comfortable zone physically, my like mental toughness took a dip and I was more distracted by like, oh, there's a bird, there's a squirrel, like I'm tired. Well, how far have I run? Like little things like that. And so I just think that's so cool how you phrased it.
Yeah. And that would go to the same thing about letting people know I'm a Christian. Like, it's blocking out that other noise that, I am who I am, and not everyone's gonna agree. Like, I used to try and be a people pleaser. I used to want everyone to like me. It doesn't work that way. The Lord's gonna do what he wants to do. We're just puppets.
That's good. And just one more question before I ask you our final question, our little wrap up question on that. When you said you used to be a people pleaser, right? And I think a lot of people have dealt with that and will deal with that your whole life. We have a nature of like wanting to be liked, right? Like how do you combat that? Because I think it's especially important in today's world with social media and us scrolling all the time. There's so much comparison and it's hard. Like you kind of feel the need to be like, oh, well, is this good enough? Is this what I should put out online for people? Even if you're posting something about the Lord, is this the right photo? Is this the right caption? Like we're constantly thinking about what other people are going to think. And so I just ask from your opinion, how do you handle that? Like how do you handle turning away from that internal need to be like, okay, this is what people want to see.
Yeah, great question. I'd really say like again, knowing that I am a person. So people don't have to agree with what I say, but still being a nice person, still being a good guy. Like people respect that. And even if they don't agree with what I'm saying, like we can still get along. We can still be bros. We can still be friends, you know?
Mates, we
It
can still be mates.
we can still be mates. There you go. So none of that stuff, and it goes both way for the Christians listening too. Like we don't agree with what everyone's saying, and that's fine. You know, hate the sin, love the sinner. It's we don't have to agree with what everybody's saying, but there becomes a point where, we're all still people and it really doesn't matter, our indifferences. We're all still created in the image of God and we're called to love.
That sounds like those need to be like song lyrics for a song that you can sing with your guitar. We're made in
I'll
the
work on
image
it.
of God and we're all loved. I love that. And that perspective that you have, that is that is going to serve you so well when you're the president of this FCA for your school. Like that's the perspective a leader needs to have, right? Like regardless of your perspective on X, Y, and Z, we're all still children of the Lord, right? And so I think that's so cool that your group has a leader like you with that perspective and that mindset. Um, and that hunger for the Lord is so cool. And I'm happy for them. It's really exciting. So, Josh,
Thank
I
you.
want to ask you one last question before we wrap up here because I know you're headed into your season. Basketball, it's a lot. You spend a lot of time in the gym, so I won't keep you too long. But do you wear headphones or no headphones pregame?
I am a no headphones guy.
You're a no headphones guy. Why?
Um, we talked about, being able to block out the noise. I feel like, and I've thought about this too. I feel like if I can do that before the game, I'm going to be in a better shape in the game. And it really just becomes to mental clarity. Like, and I get it. People love their music. But me personally, I'm not a huge music guy, although I play guitar. I'm not a
Like,
huge,
wait.
yeah, I'm not a huge like just 24/7 listening to music. And I like, might sound crazy, but I need to be. I like being in my own thoughts sometimes. So just being able to make sure I'm in check before the game goes a long way during the game, I feel.
That I've never heard someone give that explanation for no headphones, but I think it's one of the best things that I've heard ever. Really, like I
Wow.
never thought about I know seriously, like I never thought about it being like blocking out the noise or like preparing your mind to block out the noise so that when you get to the game you're already like, okay, what am I thinking about? Where's my awareness? What are my eyes focusing on? Right? Like, am I really focused? Is my brain really syncing up with what I'm thinking? And my eyes are seeing. So I love that. That is super cool. And if I was still playing, I'd probably test that out one time. I was kind of the in between headphones and no
Yeah.
headphones, but
I'm not against headphones either. I think, you can listen to some stuff that really gets you in the right headspace too. So, I'm not against it.
yeah, this is just your pregame. This is
Yeah,
just your
that's
pregame.
just me. That's how I do things.
That's so good. Okay, well, if anybody walks by Josh pregame and they say something to him, but he's tuning you out. He might be tuning you out because he's locking in for the game. Well,
Right on.
Josh, this was so cool for me to talk to you. I cannot wait to tell my friends who lived in Australia all the things you told me, and for them to get to listen to this podcast, and just the young athletes who might be have to make like a big jump in life to a different country, to a different state, to a school they've never seen before, right? Like God's got you if you're trusting Him. And I think a lot of people are going to be inspired by your willingness to just be like, all right, here we go, and trust the Lord and invest invest in God. And, you said Saturday I got there and Sunday I Googled Maps, where's the nearest church? Like, man, that is so cool. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And we'll be cheering you on this season.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.